there's so much more to fashion than most people think. As a professor in fashion, I teach a course called Public Speaking in the Fashion Industry. And one day I had asked my students to give me some suggestions on what I could teach or have included as part of my TEDx talk. I had one student raise her hand, and when I called on her, she was so excited. She said, "Professor, you have to talk about how you always tell us we can walk into any room and talk about fashion with anyone, no matter what the subject is." Well, I thought about this for a moment, and two things went through my mind. I think the first was shock, because the students actually do listen to me, so that was an exciting moment in my career. And the second thing I think was a little bit more personal. When you look at the image on the left-hand side, it looks something familiar to you. But on the right-hand side, this is what it looks like in reality, under a microscope. It's a little bit more complex. This is how I feel about fashion. There's so many misconceptions about what fashion is. It's all about the glamour, it's all about the glitz, it's only about the runways. But to me, it really is a universal language that can connect so many people in so many industries. So that is my objective today, is to be able to help you understand that fashion can connect so many people. Okay, so throughout your learning journeys, you probably have had different tools to be able to help you remember certain things. I know as a kid, I had one to help me remember all the Great Lakes. Especially growing up in Pennsylvania, we had to learn all the Great Lakes. And the one I remember was homes. Let's see if I remember. Lake Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, Superior. See, works, still got it. So that was the one that I remember. So my objective today is to provide you with an acronym that's going to help you remember all the different disciplines that are going to be like tiny little threads woven together right into fashion.
And that acronym is SEAMS. S-E-A-M-S.
Let's get it started. First is S. This is going to be for all the sciences. Now, the first science that we're going to be talking about, there's a couple. It's going to be about chemistry. Now, most people would never connect fashion and chemistry, but in actuality, they are BFFs. You had the very first regenerated fiber invented in the 1800s, which was rayon. And then you had the very first completely synthetic chemical-based fiber invented in 1935, which was nylon. Today, there's incredible advancements when it comes to something called smart textiles. Let me give you an example. I have a pair of pajamas that when I get cold at night, they keep me warm. And then when I start sweating, which kind of happens in the same night's sleep, by the way, it won't make me feel my sweat. So it has sweat wicking capabilities. We call these thermoregulating textiles. Now, the interesting thing about this, and my only wish, is that I only have one pair. I really actually need to get more for every night of the week. Now, the next science is incredibly interesting. Can you imagine a pair of shoes made from grapes? What about a handbag made from mushrooms? Biologists are actually the new next fashion innovators. They're coming up with incredible alternatives for leather, plant-based alternatives. Take a look at my shoes. You guys see them? They're made from apple leather. Aren't they cute? Okay, next, another discipline that you would never connect to fashion, but in actuality, they're very closely connected. Space. Okay, so if you've ever seen what the astronauts wear, they're not just cool looking. They are technological marvels. When you look at it, this is the undergarment that's worn under the spacesuit. It has a cooling system in it that regulates the body temperature of the astronauts. So when they are exposed to the sun at a 250 Fahrenheit, it can actually cool them down. And then when they're in the shade at a negative 250 Fahrenheit, it can warm them up. Pretty impressive. Now, in addition to that, there's 11 different layers that are worn on top of it. And they provide a lot of different protection levels. So it can provide waterproof protection, fireproof protection, and interesting enough, bulletproof protection. So according to NASA, in outer space, there's space dust that's orbiting the Earth at a speed of 18,000 miles per hour, which is crazy. But the spacesuit is being able to provide protection from speeding bullets in space. Pretty impressive, right? I know, I see a face. It's so interesting. All right, let's go to our E in our acronym. There's two disciplines I'm going to tie in. The first is exercise. Now, if you have not gone on the pickleball wagon, you might want to join in. Because according to the American Association of Pickleball Professionals, it has grown by 225% in the past 3 years. Also, for the third year in a row, it is the largest participatory sport in the US, which is insane. But of course, if you're going to play pickleball, you got to look the part. But another interesting component to this is that another really popular exercise is yoga. And so there's an entrepreneur that has created yoga pants with sensors in them. So when you get into the right pose, it'll actually vibrate so that you know that you're in the right yoga position and you're doing the exercises safe. Okay? Pretty interesting stuff. The next E that I'm going to tie in is probably something you're very familiar with. Have you ever heard the phrase put together, dress for success? Yeah, absolutely. Most of us probably have. But here's the interesting about it. There's actually science to back it up. It's not a cliche. It's called enclothed cognition. It was a theory developed by psychologists Adam and Galinsky that basically indicates what you wear can impact your thoughts, emotions, and your behaviors. Now, I actually tested the theory. I provided education to hospital systems in a different state, and what I noticed was when I would wear regular clothes versus wearing something like a lab coat, the reception was totally different. So as soon as I wore the lab coat, I could tell they were more attentive and they're more perceptive to what I was saying. So the theory is on point. Let's move on to our A in our acronym. Now this one's very near and dear to my heart because I grew up on a farm. A is for agriculture. So let me ask you, what is the #1 most widely used natural fiber in the world? If you guessed cotton, that would be correct. According to the US Department of Agriculture, the United States has 22,000 cotton farms located in 17 different states, located all the way from Virginia to California. And the United States is the third largest exporter of cotton in the world, which is really interesting. Now, here's another fun fact for you. Have you ever looked at a dollar bill or a Benjamin Franklin and thought, what is this made of? Most people probably think it's paper, but it's actually cotton. 75% of your Benjamin Franklins are actually made of cotton and the rest is linen. Interesting. Let's move on to the M in our acronym. And this is tied to the medical field. Did you know that 1 in 5 people will be diagnosed with skin cancer before they age 70 in the United States? Also, 2 people die from skin cancer every hour in the US, according to the Skin Cancer Foundation. The fashion industry is doing something to combat this. They're providing clothing that can provide protection over your own individual skin pigmentation.
I'm actually wearing a shirt that has the protection in it as well.
So fashion literally has you covered. All right, last but not least is a topic that's very, very hot in the fashion industry. S is tied to sustainability. Now, if you didn't know, the United Nations has indicated that the fashion industry is the #2 most polluting industry in the world. Also, according to the US Department of Interiors, indicates that a lot of our clothes, unused clothes, ends up in the landfills. More specifically, 300 million shoes ends up in the landfills on an annual basis.
So the fashion industry tried to do something about it?
In this case, one particular company is taking your old sneakers and breaking them down to granules. So this is a broken down, obviously a lot of sneakers, into the rubber, foam, and textiles, and repurposing this and putting it back into the fashion cycle. So for example, my students were able to use this for a fashion show. They took the material and created bustiers out of the material. So it gets circled back, end of life, into the fashion cycle. Another application is a different industry where they can take this material and put it onto playground floors. Pretty interesting stuff. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope now you can understand that fashion is just so much more than you ever could imagine, tied to so many different disciplines. To me, it is a universal language that can connect so many industries, but most importantly, it connects people. Ooh, dare I say, fashion is more than it seems. Thank you.